Okay, yes, it is one of those days where I am wearing a hat on my head. Ahead of what I think I'm going to start doing again, I used to have a YouTube, I still have a YouTube channel. I don't post on it. I just have the account so that I can watch YouTube videos. But I used to do, excuse me, book reviews. So I think I'm going to start doing that again. But I'm not ready yet. But this particular book, I read a book and I was like, I'm still going to probably put it on my timeline with just like a brief thing. But this is the first book that I've read in a while that's made me feel like I need to do a video. I can't really articulate myself the way I need to in writing here. Okay. When No One Is Watching is the name of the book, but I was trying to get the author right. Alyssa Cole. So I've been on this thing where I'm like, I'm not going to read any books, new books, until I, read all the books I have. The last book, my most recent book that I've been working on as an author is, it's kind of like a domestic suspense book. So I have been reading a lot of like thrillers and mysteries. So just kind of see the formula and how these authors are, crafting what they're doing. So again, it just went on my list, but then I read an excerpt and then I was done because I'm like, I need to start reading this. I was in the middle of reading another book that I just kind of tossed aside because she got me from the opening line, and the book it gripped me and it kept me, I'm keep pulling up my notes here so I can start talking. This book needs to be made into some type of movie ASAP. I've only said that about maybe a handful of books, but it's on my list now, top 5 for sure. I could see this the entire time I was watching it. I'm like, I saw it unfolding in my head. This is a movie. Okay, now they're going to this place and this is happening. There were guns, there were this, it was just, the book was really, really good. Really well written. And let me just start off, because it's just so much to unpack here. That's why I always tend to look at the worst reviews. I don't look at the best ones because, I'm a reader. I have my own opinion about, books. And if the premise, is something that I'm interested in, I'm going to read it. But there was just so much. And I was like, why are these people hating on this book or whatever? And the majority of them, number one, had gotten the book for free. Number two, they were offended by the foul language. Whatever, I couldn't believe that that's why you would give this book a 1 star, because you were offended by the language. Because in the opening line, the book opens with, I think the opening line is "History is fucking wild" or something like that. But as I started reading, I started to understand probably the people who were giving her those 1 stars and what their real motivation was. Okay, first of all, this is a whole fiction book, but there are a lot of underlying truths to, what she's saying. There is some historical, factual information in there. And, it kind of speaks to some stuff that's going on right now in society. I mean, it goes off the rails in the end and, but it's not something that's not plausible that could happen. But the book itself focuses on Sydney. She's a 30-year-old black woman who she had a bad divorce. She comes back home to her Brooklyn neighborhood, to kind of find her bearings again, to what's familiar to her. Moves in with her mom who's sick. And the neighborhood is rapidly changing due to gentrification. And I'm going to read you a definition. It says gentrification is the process of renovating and improving a house or district so that it conforms to middle class taste. Okay. What usually happens in reality is that when these developers come into neighborhoods, the neighborhoods, granted, most of them probably have seen better days. Some of them may be run down, but there are a lot of poor black people in a lot of these neighborhoods, or people of color, or, minorities primarily, who weren't ever able to afford, they couldn't afford to move, and, whether the neighborhood kind of fell to ruins by their own hands or because of neglect from the city. I mean, I think it's a combination maybe of both, but typically what happens is you have these big developers come in because now this area is ideal because it's closer to what's happening downtown or closer to employers that are coming in the area. So now they want to tear down these little shotgun houses and build high rises and condos and different things like that, to make money. And the people that live there can no longer afford to even stay there. They try to buy the people out. And you have a lot of people that don't want to sell because it's like, where am I going to go? Because even with that money, it may or may not be enough to start over. So in this book, in the neighborhood, that's kind of what's happening. People are being asked to sell, and a lot of people are selling their homes, and the neighborhood's changing. And Sydney kind of is thrown together with one of her new neighbors, this white guy named Theo. And it's not, everything isn't what it seems, because even though it sounds typical, like the new people that are moving in, the behavior and all this stuff, it's just like Sydney knows in her heart of hearts, I was born and raised in this community, that, that man wouldn't have sold his house, or that lady wouldn't have sold her house. She wouldn't have just left like that. And so then that's when the thriller part comes in, because it's kind of like, is there something nefarious going on here? Where are these people going? And that's what made me want to just, keep reading or whatever. And, some of the twists in this book are so wild. But that to me is like the mark of a good fiction writer, because on one hand, you want to create something that's so outlandish that people are like, that would never happen. But then on the other hand, it makes people think, what, that could probably happen. So there's a lot of racial discourse and dissension and conversation mentioned, and friction and tension initially between Sydney and Theo, because they're, seemingly from two different worlds, but they actually understand each other a lot better than they end up realizing they understand each other a lot better than they initially thought. But I think that because this book is told from the point of view of a black woman, well, not told from a point of view, because it's actually 2 points of view, Theo's and Sydney's, but because it was written by a black woman, and when we're hearing Sydney's point of view, or you're reading Sydney's point of view, it's very realistic as to how, some black people feel about how their neighborhoods are being taken over, and there's a lot of instances in here with, there's a situation where Theo's ex-girlfriend is going to call the police on, on Sydney, because she skipped Sydney in line at one of the little stores, but because Sydney has the gall to stand up for herself, she's going to call the police, and she wears this smirk like she knows what that means. And we've all seen that play out recently in the media with the Karens and the Beckys that, decide they want to just call 911 because they can, and there's stuff that happens where the police, blatantly let you know, I'm not on your side, so that kind of shit happens in real life. And me personally, I think that's what made a lot of people uncomfortable with this story. It wasn't the language. I use bad language. She didn't hardly have any in there. In compare, I have a book that they wouldn't even be able to read. She didn't use that much foul language for that to have been the reason for some of these reviews. Like I said, I stand by that. I think it made people uncomfortable because of what she was saying, and then how the relationship between her and Theo, spoiler, how that relationship was developing. I just really think that it made a lot of people uncomfortable. But you need to be made uncomfortable sometimes, and in a fiction book, if you can't handle that, you damn sure can't handle real life. Hey, if I have to, say anything negative about it, I personally didn't care for the ending. The ending, I was kind of like, what? Some people say, oh, I didn't see that coming, and, they liked it or whatever. If the plan is to turn this into some type of television show or series, then that's going to be a good thing, because I can see a continuation happening. But after that hospital scene, what happened when somebody comes in, who the person is, I'm just like, what? It just didn't make sense to me, but I still enjoyed it. I mean, I still thought, okay, kudos, kudos. I would just say overall, I just thought it was good. I love the dialogue, the chemistry and connection between Theo and Sydney. And it wasn't like one of those, oh, here we go, like we're going to force an interracial relationship or whatever. It was kind of organic. And like I said, they just realized they had a lot of shit in common that beyond, a lot of times we put up barriers because we think, oh, he's a man, he's not going to understand. Oh, she's a woman, she's not going to understand. She's white, she's not going to understand. He's Hispanic, he's not going to know. And there are certain things, obviously, that in your race, in your gender, shit, even in your city or your neighborhood, that only you and maybe the people that inhabit those spaces are going to truly be able to get. But there's a lot of commonality between people at the end of the day, because we're all human and we've all been through some shit. So they connected kind of on that level. I was about to be mad and be done with the book at one point because, I thought it was going to go another way, and I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to keep reading this, because it was giving me Get Out vibes, and I was like, no, I'm not supporting this. I'm not going to read the rest of this. This is about to happen, then I'm done with it. But that didn't happen, so that was good. But the thing that's crazy is that I've never been a believer in conspiracy theories, right? People, and what's funny to me is that people that do, have conspiracy theories or they believe in conspiracy theories, they always call other people sheep, like we believe anything. Well, if you believe some of those conspiracy theories, you're kind of like a sheep too. I think everybody just has to use their own, what they feel is logical, discernment, because we all are coming from a place of our own experiences, right? So if it's something that you've never experienced, you can't relate to it. But some of these conspiracy theories, there was some conspiracy theories in there that made me go, you know what? I never thought about that. That probably is why that happened, So conspiracy theories, I think y'all gonna love this book. But it was so good. It was so good. I read it in like 24 hours. Like I said, I wasn't like 100% sold on the ending, but the rest of it. But I am also the type of person, I love like action stuff. I love, when chicks are badass, and like they're going to handle it, whatever they need to do. It wasn't like mushy or, even though Sydney had moments, where she was just breaking down, and Theo did help her, kind of, because we all need a shoulder to lean on or to cry on, but she wasn't like a film, like just, a damsel in distress and he's coming to have to save me. So I appreciated that. I mean, she was leading the charge on some shit when it got wild. So, yeah, anyway, it was like he started to kind of see where she was coming from, because initially, like there was this one scene, I will say, see, it was like a movie. It was this one part where he showed up with a Black Lives Matter shirt on, and she was like, take that shit off. No, we're not having that. I'm not walking around this neighborhood with a white boy with a Black Lives Matter shirt on. And so he didn't get it. You're like, what? I'm showing my support, but after a while, he did kind of get how it could appear to be patronizing, or he, started to recognize some of his privilege. And, I don't know. I can say so much about this book, but, I don't want this to turn into an hour-long review or whatever. But, yeah. And another thing, when he was talking about how he never even thought much about Black communities, he said he just thought they were just like the post office, like, he didn't know the inner workings of how stuff actually got to where it goes. He didn't know the nuts and bolts of how things got delivered. But he did admit that when he thought about Black communities, the first thing that ever came to his mind, even if he didn't want it to, was crime, drugs, gangs. And that's probably what a lot of white people think about Black communities, when a lot of them are just like where you live, whether that's good or bad. But just in general, the book, I thought it was very entertaining. Kudos. I hope that it is made into some type of movie or something, because I can really see this playing out on a big or small screen if it's done right. But yeah, so that is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. You should definitely check that one out.